It's been about a week and a half since I shot any video on the Anycubic Linear Plus 3D printer. And last time I made a video, we talked a little bit about these pulleys right here. We're ready to actually install this top triangle onto the frame of the printer, so we'll get started on that right now. So we've already installed the nuts and bolts that are going to hold this in place. It uses a button head socket screw, and I'm using the elongated insertion nuts, which I understand from some postings on YouTube and elsewhere, those are now provided with the kit, so you don't even have to go out and buy those extra anymore. And then you'll notice that there is a button head screw here at the top of the fitting, and that's to keep this from sliding too far down the side frame. So that's going to come up and match right at the top here of the top frame. Okay, buddy, you want to go ahead and put that in?
Yes, I do. So I guess just fit it on.
Yeah.
So make sure
go ahead and lift it on there.
The nuts are vertical.
Yeah, make sure the nuts are vertical. Slide that on.
And then just...
You have to move it around a little bit. You have to wiggle some to get everything to fit into place, but everything should
like that.
Drop in pretty smoothly. You just have to get everything lined up. Got it lined up. Let's see over here. Okay, and here. Okay, I'm going to put the camera down here and do a little adjustment. Okay, so the trick with this is to make sure that the insertion nuts are retracted far enough that they'll actually slide into the extrusion. So this one was out just a little too far, so we actually have to tighten it up just a little bit so it'll actually drop into the slot. And once I give it some clearance, then it just, let's see, are we in the frame? There we go. Just slide that right in there like so. And then you can see that this nut here at the top captures it so that it doesn't go down too far. Okay, so now I have all three corners lined up, and you can see right here where the nut catches the top of the extrusion so that it doesn't go down too far. And I'm going to just push all those down so they're all so nice and snug. Here, here, and over here, and then we'll tighten these screws up right here. Tighten those up with the Allen wrench. Okay, got it?
So we just...
Yeah, you just tighten that up there.
Like...
Yeah, and you don't have to get it very tight, just to get it snug. Okay, there.
That one's a little loose.
Yeah, your hands are in the way, people can't see.
I'm sorry. Sorry, people.
Okay.
This is only like my second.
Okay. And one more.
And we're done.
Yep, just like that. Okay, so the next step is to install those limit switches, and there are 3 of those. And they come partly assembled. And at one end they have little pinout connectors, and you have to assemble these here, but you don't want to put those on until after we get them installed on the actual machine. So we'll do that next. So the limit switches are installed with these M2.5 by 12 millimeter socket head screws. There have been some comments on my videos, and I've read some somewhere else, that that the screws tend to hit the timing bolts, or timing belts rather, that move the effector up and down. I haven't run into that with the other machine. I looked at my machine really closely. Well, let's take a look at the other machine real quick. Just go over to it real fast. So looking at my original machine here, you can see that those nuts, they're real close to the timing belt, but there's a couple of thousandths of clearance there. I can see though that could be a concern. So if you have a concern about those belts rubbing against these, I would suggest you replace these socket head screws with button heads. If you get M2.5 by 12 millimeter button heads, the head profile is a little bit shallower, and that would avoid any risk of these rubbing against the edges of the belt. Like I said, that has not been a problem on this machine. This machine's got about 200 hours of use on it now, and it's still working just fine, so I really don't have a problem with that. Okay, so you install the homing switches by bringing the two leads up on either side of the pulley. And I'm just going to try to make sure that I do them all the same. I'm going to put the red one here on the right side and the black one here on the left side. And just bring those up here on, and that's just to feed the wires through. And then you'll install the switches here on the other side. Okay, so I got a new camera here. And I'm trying to figure out lighting and arrangements and working on a tripod and all that kind of stuff. I don't know that I'm any better with this than I was with a handheld camera, but anyway, I've got it up on a tripod here. It looks like we're in focus here. Okay, you can see the holes here on this bracket. That's the stop, the end stop for the sliders. And then there are holes in the actual switch. And so the M2.5 screws just go right through those holes and into the bracket. Piece of cake, nothing to it. And they just kind of thread in. Again, this would be one of those things where it would be nice if we could, oh, I see it goes out of focus as soon as I take my finger away there. Come on, focus. Alright. Well, that's annoying. It's focusing on the background rather than what I'm trying to shoot here. And then it shoots, focuses on the foreground. Here we go. Okay, can you hand me the 2.5? No, it's the smaller one, buddy.
Smaller one?
Yeah.
This really tiny one that I feel
Well, I don't think it's the tiny one.
Like
nope, it's the one in the middle.
It's the one in the middle.
Yeah. So there's 3 of them.
There's 3 of them.
Here it is, right here.
Oh, wow. I'm blind. I am blind.
Okay. Alright, so, and my fat fingers are in the way.
I got you. My nimble fingers can be saved the day.
Well, can you reach in there and turn that?
Yeah.
Okay, here your fat finger's going to be in the way. Of course, I could move the camera if you're... There we go.
How tight?
Just until they're snug. You don't want to overdo this. Oh, yeah, so I'm shining right into the light. That's not going to work very well. Anyway, it's not a big deal. The nuts, the bolts just go into the holes on here, and then you tighten them up with your 2.5 ball driver. And you do that 3 times, and there's no reason for me to show all 3 of those. Well, I'll tell you what, buddy, if we're going to do a lot more video, we're going to have to do something about the background. Okay, anyway, we got all 3 switches in now. Here's one. There's the second one.
3.
And here's the third one. The thing about these, you want to be sure that they're snug down, but if you get too aggressive with these and tighten it down too much, it's actually possible to crush these switches. I have a CNC machine that uses the same switches, and when I built it about 2 years ago, I managed to crush these switches by tightening them down too much. So you got to be careful with these. These are kind of universal. There's all kinds of these out there, and they do tend to get broken, although hopefully not on this machine. It is important that these be snug. If these are wiggling around a little bit, it's going to screw up your homing, and you're never going to be able to get your build platform level. So be sure that these can't wiggle around a lot. On my first machine, it turned out one of these came loose, and every time it homed, it would move it just a little bit. What happens is the carriage comes up. Here's the carriage here. The carriage comes up. Oh, come on.
I got you.
The carriage comes up, and you can see how it contacts that switch right here, and that tells the machine, hey, I'm at the home position, and then it measures back down as it goes back down toward the build plate to do its construction bit.